morning here from Palm Springs, California. Valerie Milano, the senior editor of the Hollywood Times and Aspiring Magazine. And I'm so happy to have our guests here today talking about their film. I'm going to go around the Zoom room and let them each introduce themselves. Thank you two again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having us. My name is Justin Seegmueller. I play the role of Daniel in Saari. I also helped write this with Corey. I'm currently located in Philadelphia. I have kind of jumped around a little bit. I was in Los Angeles for a little bit. I was in London a little bit, but I've always kind of circled back to my hometown here. So,
Yeah. And I'm Corey L'Esperance. I am currently located in Helsinki, Finland. I also co-wrote the film and I was a co-director of the film. Yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you both again. Sorry unfolds through fragments of memory rather than a strictly linear narrative. Why was that structure important for telling Daniel and Liina's story?
So actually, sorry, we pieced this project together. It took us about 10 years. So the fragments are actually shot in different year time frames. And one of the things that we wanted to do is that we wanted to kind of break it into three sections where we have what me and Justin called this past, present, and future sense. And the idea is that we kind of go on a journey where we see the perspectives of both of these characters, kind of how the relationship was from each perspective, and then also we jump into the future and kind of see these characters, you know, kind of coming to, uh, I guess coming to this moment of understanding of realization or acceptance with the decisions that they made in the past. So I think this film is a lot about two characters that are kind of stuck in these moments in time, and so that's kind of where this idea of kind of going into the future, going back into the past, and then being around in the present, why it's been kind of pieced together that way.
yeah, and just to kind of like piggyback off of that, what's kind of like interesting about that storytelling is it kind of gives, I think, at least Daniel and Lena's characters, like this depth to their life. Like they are in some way an accumulation of their experiences, that though the story is told unlinearly, there is a through line throughout their life. And the kind of way of how you kind of have to reconcile that at some point. And I think that was a big part of Daniel's thing. He's out in the desert. He's kind of has this internal monologue that's kind of going on. He's kind of thinking back on his life, and he's thinking to himself, like, am I that person? Am I still that person? Was that was what does that all mean to who I am now? And then you can kind of trace it back through the other time periods. And I always thought that was kind of the key of Saudi for me, which was it's all about decision making, and are you an accumulation of all your decisions? Um, so yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah, go ahead.
no, I just maybe one more thing to kind
Sure.
of add to that, which I think is interesting when we went into the editing room, because of course we've been working on this project for many years. So I think that we, as we were putting this project together, that our mindset about the characters changed. I think when we first set out to make this film, uh, the characters Daniel and Lena, that we kind of looked at Daniel as this kind of this hero, but I think over the years we've kind of realized that he is kind of a bad guy in some of these aspects, and I think that while it is a short film, I think that we tried to do a very good job of showcasing the complexities of relationships and seeing kind of, what gets lost when a relationship falls apart.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I get that. The island begins as a place of safety and family history, but gradually becomes emotionally unsettling. How did you use the Finnish location to reflect the deterioration of their relationship?
Justin, do you want to, because I think you might remember kind of how we discussed it when you went into act. Do you remember some of those aspects or?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's this weird thing that happens when you travel somewhere new and you go to this new place that you don't have a history with, but this other person has a history with. And they see it as this place of salvation and this place of safety and security. And they want you in that house. They want you to come into that security. And then you kind of are the parasite in that sense. You're the person who goes into that security and infects it. And I think that was the landscape of Finland so beautiful in the sense that it's this very clean, very pristine. Like you can kind of see it behind Corey, the woods, like the birch trees. It's very calming and very peaceful. And the island that we shot this on was equally as peaceful as what you're looking at Corey's back window there. Um, and to be kind of like an infection in that space is the idea that it's like, okay, so you let me into your life, and now I'm here almost like ruining your sense of security, ruining all that stuff. And this the background of like the island being so clean and serene, and then later in the desert, it's so dry and barren. It's like this lush and then dead. And it's kind of like this really beautiful, I think, thing that Corey did because Corey um, did an amazing job shooting this thing, and he captured those like emotions of the characters with the emotions of the backdrop really well, in my opinion. So,
I think there was also something that we really enjoyed when we first set out, thinking that these two people are kind of trapped on an island as well. That if
yeah.
you think about a relationship that might be starting to come undone, or that there's maybe secrets or things that are not being fully told towards one another, that it almost seems like a really interesting place to have this dynamic play out because there's not really anywhere you can go. And you can kind of see in the film that they take a rowboat to this place, so it's not like you can necessarily jump in your car and drive out of there. So I think that's something that we really wanted to play with.
Yeah, it was beautifully shot. I love it. And on that note, um, Corey, your collaboration as co-directors with Suvi across Finnish and American perspectives, how did that shape the film's visual style and emotional tone, if you could tell our audience?
Yeah, so when we were starting to piece the story together, both me and Suvi in our own relationships, with our partners at the time, they were kind of falling apart. And one of the things that we discussed is, it would be really nice to kind of look at this project from both an American and a Finnish perspective. And one of the things that we had to do in writing the first drafts is trying to make sure that it will all work together in one piece. And then the second part was how do you capture these people? So of course, kind of understanding that, my perspective is coming from the American male perspective. That is kind of where when it came to directing, that I would take a back seat when, Liina was kind of more dominant within the different scenes, and then of course I would kind of take a front seat when there was maybe more scenes where Justin was a little bit more dominant, and it was a very interesting dynamic. I think that the actors themselves, both Ilona and Justin, I think that they had a really good time, interacting within these scenes, and I think they've also become really good friends
It's very true. Yeah.
after this film.
That's sweet. What were you going to say, Justin?
No, it's true. I did, and Alona and I have become pretty good friends after it because we were kind of in this world together, kind of doing this stuff together, and on any film or play I've ever done and everything like that. Like sometimes you go into these things and you kind of meet people and you just fall off, but every once in a while you're kind of in there and then you just have those people that you kind of like connect with and then they just kind of live beyond the production, live beyond the play or whatever. Um and Ilona was one of those people. And I think you can kind of see that a little bit in the Boston scenes, like when you're trying to show like that affection, you know, trying to see that because that was actually shot. But that was the second thing we shot. So that had been like 3-ish years, I think, Corey, after we shot the original stuff in Finland or something. So hopefully it worked out in that way.
Yeah,
And, and the fun, sorry, go ahead.
no, you go, Corey.
That some of the fun like behind the scenes stories is for Ilona. It was her first time visiting the United States, so she came and spent a week. We shot some scenes, but then she also basically went to New York and Philadelphia and kind of did a little bit of an East Coast tour at the same time, which is kind of an interesting aspect as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Justin, you co-wrote the film and also played Daniel, as we know. How did being involved in the writing influence your performance, particularly when portraying a character who is withholding so much?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, actually. What I loved about it was, you know, when you're in the writing room, you're kind of doing this experimenting. You're kind of doing this thing where you're like, is this it for the character? Is this not it for the character? And you kind of write that down. And as an actor, you kind of do the same thing. You're like, okay, I need to make a decision here, in your performance. And what was really interesting is I could in the writing room, I could sit there and you can kind of hear it in the monologue in the film where it's kind of being like, it is all about that restraint and that give and that restraint and that give. And being able to kind of write that and then kind of go out there and say, like, how can I like hold back or how can I be reserved and be quiet? And then when can I burst and do something or make a choice? And it's kind of like playing with those decisions in the writing room and being able to play with those decisions as the performer was actually one of the more fun parts of this for me as a performer.
Yeah, I can imagine. The film explores betrayal without immediately revealing or explaining everything. How did you, whoever wants to talk about it, how did you decide what to show the audience and what to leave unspoken?
Oh, I think that this is something that we spent a lot of time in post-production trying to figure out. We had many different ways that we attempted to showcase it. Some that were, some of the old drafts, we didn't show anything really, and I think it was through testing with other people and kind of understanding that we do need to have some breadcrumbs. Otherwise, it gets a little too lost on the audience, and that's something that we worked at because I think with this film we wanted to keep things very subtle and very quiet and calm, and that also meant kind of lingering on some of the shots and allowing the audience to read into it a little bit. And that's something I think that took some, learning, I think, on our part of, how do you showcase that to the audience in a way that they will understand what's taking shape, and there's still some aspects where they can fill in some of the blanks that's not necessarily shown in the piece.
Yeah, I know we're running out of time, but I just have two more questions. Ilona Karppanen, is that how you pronounce it? Her,
Yeah,
okay,
Karpinen, yeah, yeah.
better. I love your accent. Her character, Liina, slowly begins piercing together the truth. What did you want the audience to understand about her journey beyond Daniel's actions?
I think for Lena's character, I think Justin kind of mentioned it earlier, but that for her this island, it was meant to be a very safe place, and so for her as a character, she was wanting to bring this man there, that she may have also had some I had an idea of what he was or what kind of future that they would have together. And I think one of the things that the film wants to portray is that what the character's, ideal situation would be is not what was taking place, and that for her, started to become her own kind of safeguard, or that through this experience, she became a completely different person by the end of the project. And we only really see a small glimpse of who that is, where she's standing in front of the city, but it's supposed to kind of symbolize this idea that that moment was a big deal, or something very important for her, that the audience has an opportunity to kind of imagine she's completely changed into someone else, or her future self, and it gives the audience maybe a little bit of an opportunity to fill in the blanks of who that person is.
Nice. This film, it's going to be having its world premiere at River Valley Film Festival, which we are media partners with the festival. What does it mean to introduce Saari to its first festival audience, and what conversations do you hope that it will inspire afterward?
Yeah, it's an exciting time because this film is like 10 plus years in the making and has put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, as they say. It's gone through so much love, and so much work and so much passion that it's going to be great to share that with people. It's going to be good to see what their take on it is, because it is not super, super like, it's a little interpretive at times. So I'm always interested to see kind of what that is. And I think the conversation I hope that kind of comes out of it is kind of what I was talking about earlier. It's like this question of identity, this question of like an accumulation of your life, reconciliation, the meanings of things that transpire through time. Um, and what does that say about you? What does that say about your story and your own narrative? Um, and hopefully maybe has people think about some of the bad decisions they've made. and, and like and kind of like be like, oh man, I still think about that. And it's like 10 years ago. Those types of things, maybe dredge up some of that for the audience and stuff. I think that would be pretty cool.
Nice. Okay.
And I guess it might also be, worth adding that, me and Justin, we both went to film school in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia, and I think it's kind of nice also that, it's being showcased in the same state that kind of gave us our kickstart within this realm, which is kind of nice too.
Very, very nice. Well, continue to keep up the great work, and I'm excited that this film is out there. We are the Hollywood Times dot today, hollywoodtimes.net, and our YouTube channel is the Hollywood Times Official. We'll be spreading the word for everybody to get their tickets to come see your film. And thank you so much for this discussion today, both of you. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great rest of your
Thank you.
time.
You too.
Bye.